Hello, Maya. Super happy to have you on the show for the first episode of the e-commerce growth stories. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself for the poor souls out there who have never heard about you?
All right, Thomas, thank you so much. It's a very special honor to be your first guest. And for the two of you who don't know me yet, my name is Maja Voje. I'm a growth strategist, founder of Growth Lab. I've been teaching a Udemy course, which is a bestseller in terms of growth hacking and digital marketing. And it currently has like 50,000 students for 3 years round in a row. Yeah, approximately like that. Geez, not the youngest person in the room here. Other than that, I am doing a lot of consulting work for companies, and I just like to act a little bit crazy now and then. Just like this cyberpunk nature, of being there, being in online communities, helping folks. That's like my life purpose, to just like empower people to be better in what they are doing. So totally excited to do this, and let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really happy to have you on this show. As you have heard, she's an amazing growth marketer, knows a lot about growth hacking and how to attract customers, and also obviously how to retain customers. And we're gonna have a bit of a focus on growth applied to e-commerce here. And the first thing that I find always super hard is, especially when we talk about customer acquisition, you can do so many things, right? So many channels that you can tap into to attract new customers, to drive traffic. So in that mess, what would for you be the one or two, three top channels right now that are quite hot and that people can use?
Right. So this is like a very tough question. If anybody had like the winning formula, he or she would be a billionaire and the rest of us would be outside the business. But here is what I can talk about from my own business experience. So right now we are recording this when Corona just like is still on, right? So there are some change behaviors that have been hitting us for the last couple of months. And some of the businesses that I work with have been booming. I mean, the growth rates have been insane. Businesses were growing for like 400% a month, but some of them were not as fortunate. So it has to do a lot with the industry, whether you are a painkiller or just like a vitamin, meaning are you a necessity to your target audience, or are you just like something that could be a prolonged purchase? That's the first question. The second question was whether your target audience, in a way how you envision it like 6 months ago, is still the thing, right? Or should you be redefining your persona, somebody who is like up for this on this market as well? But without like needless gibberish, let me answer the question like for reals. Three top channels that I've been seeing in the last few months with the companies that I work with are absolutely Facebook advertising, and here we can test like a couple of very different funnels. So in terms of cold traffic acquisition, what worked amazingly well was user-generated content in the ads. That was pretty phenomenal. The second big thing were like influencer content, and not just from the big shots, but also from nano influencer, meaning folks that have somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 followers. I mean, the
Hmm.
range is insane, right? Because you
Yeah,
and I probably both have 1,000 followers, but we don't have 20,000 of them on
and I'm super
Instagram
happy
yet.
about it.
Yeah, but you are like totally welcome to send us deals. Why not? But yeah, other than that, businesses have been using that in advertising with great success because these people are at least like semi-professional content producers, and it has
Hmm.
been working spectacularly well from them. Apart from Facebook and Instagram, what we have been seeing like in my practice are also like a bunch of ads on YouTube. And just like for categories where this is natural, such as cosmetic or tech, or I don't know, some studying programs, reviews, and just like working with influencers on YouTube have been shown phenomenally well. I actually had a business that has been booming on Discord. So that was like a gaming product in addition to that. So what I'm basically saying here is choose the channels that are natural for your audience, where their natural attention is there per se. And
Hmm.
the third one is actually going to surprise you. It's Amazon. with all the businesses that are selling to the United States, I mean, like if you are a company based here in Europe, trust could be a huge issue, right? So
Hmm.
people are not like totally ready to give you their credit cards information yet. And if you're doing some campaigns, they are more likely to order stuff from Amazon because there is their go-to purchasing channel as well. As you are investing in brand awareness, you know, people inevitably go and search for you. Amazon is one of the first hits that they will see. Other than that, it's also very beneficial in terms of shipping, because if you are sending something from Europe to the United States across the ocean, damn, shit can be expensive. But if you are utilizing Amazon services like storage services in the USA, that cost could be significantly lower. So Amazon has been like the third channel that I've seen booming.
Mm.
Just the final anecdote that I will say here, and that actually happened as the client of mine has been featured on Today's Show, which is, I don't know if there is like a show Good Morning Belgium, but that is like the best morning show in the USA. And after we saw like this huge spike in traffic, believe it or not, there was a 10,000% growth on Amazon. So whereas we saw like 300 or 400% growth in e-commerce per se, some of the folks were still more likely to buy from Amazon because that was just like their natural go-to set channel, especially if they
Hmm.
use Amazon Prime. That was kind of a natural thing for them to do. So yeah, that would be surprisingly my third one that I would say that you should absolutely invest in, especially if you're doing some business in the United States.
Nice. So Facebook ads, YouTube ads, nano influencers, and selling on Amazon would be the. And I have actually one question about selling on Amazon. It's something I always ask myself, should you choose, selling through your online shop, or should you choose to go all in on Amazon sales, or should you have kind of a mix of both? Because yeah, it's interesting to sell on Amazon because there are so many people on there every month. On the other hand, you don't control the customer data and the customer relationship, right? So in terms of retention marketing, it's a bit harder if you sell solely on Amazon. So would you say go all in on one, or should you have a mix of both?
Yeah, that's a very nicely wrapped question. And I think you answered it in a way. So the hybrid approach is always the best for the majority of businesses that I work with. So the e-commerce guys who have developed some sort of brand recognition and are just like investing in PR communities and social media, that should probably, like in terms of revenue margins, should be harvested on their own channels. What you said about who owns the data is supremely important, because on Amazon you can send some campaigns and you can, for example, like put a little list inside your package and ask them for a review
Mhm.
or something like that. But in a way, you are not fully controlling how your brand is being perceived and consumed. And whereas it is really important to respond on the reviews that you have on Amazon as soon as possible so that you
Mhm.
are proactive there, in terms of email marketing, it's just not as easy as in e-commerce, right? So for the majority of brands that I work with, hybrid approach, so a little bit of e-commerce, and if somebody's from the USA and is more comfortable of shopping on Amazon, that's fine. But other than that, I do have one business that completely shut down like their entire e-commerce operations and just sells on Amazon in Europe as well
Wow.
as in the United States, because like their calculation was practically bloody cold, right? They were just like making experiments, how much are they selling, and they went Amazon first. And if you want to interview the guy, I can totally hook you up with him. He's a
Yeah.
brilliant guy. But
Who
for
is
the
this?
majority of businesses, his name is Matej Persholia. Happy to share a link later. His
Nice.
company is Carlock, and he's doing a bunch of interesting stuff with YouTube reviewers as well. So yeah, hardware business, but definitely a brilliant genius marketing mind behind that. But yeah, apart from that guy, like everybody is doing hybrid. If you are not some crazy drop shipper who sell like importing paper flowers from China and selling them for their Amazon page, hybrid is the way to
Hmm.
go.
Nice. Thank you. Very
Sure.
clear. Okay, cool. So one other channel that I wanted to talk about is email marketing. Obviously, it's really powerful for e-commerce, but I feel like, and it's not only me feeling, it's like I see a lot of companies with amazing products, but who utilize email like crazy. I think it's one of the most like badly used channels of all. Do you think it's still something that that should be used really well? I mean, it's still one of the most important channels right now. And if yes, like, do you have some kind of process to go around that and have a good email strategy?
Yeah, a very cool question. I mean, the ROI of email is insane. So it can go from 300 to 700 for just like something that you would probably cry to have in like Facebook advertising or something like that. But it needs to be implemented properly. And let me
Mm-hmm.
start with technical integrations, right? So for the companies that are just like at the beginning and do have like e-commerce platforms such as Shopify or some really, really easy platforms, they can work with Klaviyo or even MailChimp to just like set up the initial sequences that they need to run. I usually recommend companies to start with 4 initial sequences. These are the welcome sequence. So that
Mm-hmm.
is like sign up for our newsletter and get 15% off. So there is like a welcome sequence to it, right? So that you can generate some revenue from that. The other inevitable sequence is cart abandonment sequence. So whoever just like was so deep in the funnel that they already like tried to purchase something, you need to have some triggers, some discounts, or just like some inventories running low stuff in order to attract them to actually convert. The first sequence that I recommend companies to have is post-purchase sequence. Then they are measuring NPS, so Net Promoter Scores, how happy were they with their purchase, and they are feeding their marketing funnel with reviews, which is extremely important because reviews right now are, at least like in terms of advertising, something that everybody is doing and something that will inevitably hit you.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have like a good NPS scores, you are asking them for a review. If they don't, you would ask them to share their problem very privately, and hopefully you can resolve them. Last but not least, it's just like a sequence that is sent to customers that are like not responding to your emails. It's like
Mm.
cleaning your email list sequence. And I'm not talking about crying kittens here. Did you forget about me? What's wrong with you?
You're
But
so
just
mean.
like to send them some signals if they are still like interested, if they will still like to keep in the loop. And here we have to talk about another concept which is incredibly important. It's called RFM, recency, frequency, monetary model. So when
Okay.
you are doing segmentation of your email database, it's super important to know what is like the natural sales cycle for your product. You might have like a hair conditioner which is selling like I don't know, once per month, once per 2 months. I don't know how long your hair is, apparently not that much, so you could probably live with one bottle for 3 months. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, let's talk this through for a woman. But in comparison, if you are like buying some technological stack, for example, like all-in-one cooling solution, or just, I don't know, some crazy graphic card, the purchasing cycle could be like 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years. So you shouldn't be going out and spam them on like a weekly basis if they just like finished one purchase, right? So there
Mm.
is that to take into consideration. The other segment that I'm super excited about are your VIP customers. customers, meaning guys who have been spending like crazy in your shop already. And those guys are phenomenal for your product discovery. With those guys, we are conducting a lot of like email surveys, or just like what type of model, what type of product should company launch next, because they know their shit. They have been very, very much engaged with the category. So that's a precious list to maintain as well. Last but not least, there are like those funnels that come from lead generation. So for example, if you have been like advertising an ebook or some downloadable content, these people are supposed to become your target audience, right? So you might put them on the remarketing list per se, or in the other scenario, you could work with them a little bit more on the email marketing side. So basically, that being said, that will be the first sequences. And when I'm talking sequences, I'm not talking campaigns, so newsletters. I'm talking like behavior-driven sequences for very specific folks. So
Yes.
that would be like a good start. It would definitely like move the needle for the majority of businesses who haven't utilized email marketing that well so far, because the majority of companies that I work with, they get up to 30% of their revenue from email marketing. So it is a
30%. Okay.
powerful channel, yeah, that should definitely not be neglected.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. You know, that's the one thing I love about, I mean, I love everything that you said, but you know, that framework of using emails based on the customer journey, that's really powerful, right? Because I think a lot of people still think of email campaigns, right? So they're gonna use like the same messaging for the entire email database, which is a mistake. Actually, what you're talking about is having a very different email or like a different message in those emails based on the fact that that person has just put the email to know more about you, or are they a first-time customer, or are they really loyal customers? And so you should stop, in my opinion, and I think that's what you just said, like, stop thinking about campaigns where you're gonna have like the big summer sale that you're gonna send to everybody. I mean, you can do that at some point,
Of course you can.
but it's yeah, it's
Nobody
fine.
is stopping you.
No, no, you cannot do that anymore. It's okay. If you're hearing this, stop. No. You can't do that, and it still makes sense. But I think most of your emails should really be framed in terms of who you're talking to, and more importantly, at what stage of the customer journey they are.
Yeah, and you should
Um,
also differentiate that for different products. If your portfolio is very like varied, so I don't know, I have like one business that sounds like fitness training equipment, and then they are selling like an online training as two separate products. So of course, sequences cannot be the same for somebody who's like buying fitness gear in comparison to those people who are just like nurturing the habit to train. So it is a complex task. It cannot be tackled within one day, but it's the closest thing to a money-making machine that you will probably get in e-commerce. So it's
yes.
definitely worth investing into. And just like, sorry for stopping you. I mean, it was such a brilliant emphasis as what we were talking about. But what I see a lot of time in business is that e-commerce platform is not compatible with their e-commerce platform. So I've been having business who runs emails in like MailerLite, and then they are using Magento to come out in order to just like do the sales. So these programs haven't been like fully integrated. It's very difficult to integrate them. So whenever you are dealing with a volume which is like over 1 million per month or something like that, it's worth investigating in your own solutions. So the first tweak should just like be to connect your Shopify platform with Klaviyo or whatever is your program of choice. But when shit's getting bigger, you should definitely become more sophisticated in terms of segmentation and as well as delivery, because unfortunately, complexity grows with your email list size. But these are sweet problems, guys. These are sweet problems.
Yeah. No, but it's true. It's true. Thanks for putting that out. No, great stuff. I'm learning a lot. That's great. So I hope that the people listening to this will also learn that. No, great. So we talked about customer acquisition. Then you talked about in the email strategy, really having a strategy for your most loyal customers. And so let's talk about online communities, right? I
All
think
right.
that you are kind of the queen of online communities. You have your own one, Growth Hacking
I have
Slovenia.
plenty.
Yeah, super
I'm
supportive
very sociable
community.
as a person. So
Yeah,
with international friends, it's impossible to see them on a regular basis. So this is how we keep in touch.
amazing. So I don't know much about that. I mean, I know that that you should probably have one, but what do you think? Like, do you think that every e-commerce brand should have one? And if so, why? And most importantly, like, how do you go around that? Like, how do you start an online community, and where should it be? Because there are again so many places where you could host that community.
Cool. Yeah, so funnily, the way how I started to think about communities for e-commerce was just because like the page organic reach per se suck, right?
Hmm.
So if you're not buying the space, you're not getting the eyeballs. And it was just like such a frustration because I saw a lot of businesses having really, really, really good content, but if we weren't advertising, nobody on earth would see that content. So that's where it became obvious. And I took like a very awesome company called Gymshark here into consideration because Gymshark has this amazing Facebook group when people are just like so proactive and awesome. So
Gym
that's what
Shark, you said?
Gymshark, yes. It's an
Gym
American
Shark.
athleisure firm. Yeah, but I
Okay,
studied English here again. Gymshark,
Gym Shark.
Gymshark,
All right.
fitness guys. So yeah, they have an amazing CMO. They are doing spectacularly well on LinkedIn as well. And I was just like immediately obsessed with their online community on Facebook. Why?
Hmm.
It is very difficult to make people interact with a brand, right? Because the majority of brands that we are consuming in our lives, we don't build very deep relationship with. And let me show you here. Do you see my fitness gear or not yet?
Oh yes, I do. The
Yes.
pink one and purple one looks good.
Yes, and I have tremendous amount of like elastics to train with and just like
Nice.
weight and everything because this is something that I'm very passionate about. For the last 2 years I wasn't when we were working together. But yeah, right now it's very important part of my life. So I am
Hmm.
into the category of just like fitness and maintaining your energy levels through doing exercises regularly.
Hmm.
Naturally, I would like to absorb more information about the field, which is really near and dear to me. And I don't know if you're familiar with the theory of 1000 true fans.
Nope,
All
not
right.
yet.
It's a fascinating theory that all you need in order to grow a brand are just like 1,000 people who are obsessed with you and will buy absolutely everything from you.
Hmm.
So if you are an e-commerce brand and you have this problem with the reach, with the organic reach, it's natural that you will seek for platforms that you actually give you a fighting chance to just like communicate with your audience that may be passionate and just like supremely interested in what you have to say and what you have to offer anyways.
Hmm.
So that's why we started to launch a lot of Facebook groups for the companies that I'm working with. And in these Facebook groups you can only become a member if you actually bought a product there.
Hmm.
And what happens there is pretty much insane, unbelievable, and gorgeous. This is why I do marketing in the first place, because it connects people and it gives them something good in life to enjoy. So I've been seeing tremendous success with this in the fitness area. So when people are just like asking, hey, can I do sit-ups if I was a pregnant 4 days, 4 months ago or something like that? And then like the rest of the community jumps in and the others are like, hey, I'm doing so much exercise, but I'm not losing any weight. Why should I change about my eating? And you have these phenomenal engaging stories because people do shape relationships with people, not necessarily with brands. And if you
Hmm.
have like a community which connects people around a common purpose, so for example with fitness brands, healthy lifestyle is a very common purpose. The other communities that I'm running are more professional. So either it's like a startup thing, or there is one about around cooking, which is very fascinating per se. But I'm not saying this that it should apply to everybody, but it's definitely good in terms of like customer journey to give them more touch points. As we were
Yes.
talking about like newsletters before, these are touch points, right? But they are very passive. They are not very engaging. So if you are inviting your customers to join you on social media, and because the organic reach of social media per se sucks, that means that like Facebook groups are still untapped potential. I'm seeing groups elsewhere, so it's not just Facebook groups. With some of the businesses I work with, there are Slack groups, there are meetup groups, there are Discord groups, you have Telegram groups, you have tremendous amount of choice. But just like the bottom line, you go where your audience is and you interact with them on a meaningful fashion, not just
Mm.
like pushing your product again and again. You are providing more value touch points to them, and guess what, those people will probably become the greatest ravers of what you have to sell in the first way. Yeah, they will actually go
Mind
insane.
blowing.
I'm seeing people like changing their cover images on Facebook to
Yeah.
branded images and just like feeling so obsessed about the product. I mean, for me, it's bizarre because I'm not very used of centering my identity around a certain brand, but there is a sizable segment of people who does that. So
Hmm.
in a way, if you can establish such a relationship with them, it's tremendously beneficial for them as well. I mean, it definitely adds value.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one thing to keep in mind is that so we talked about email marketing and online communities. These are two own channels, and
Mhm.
that's something like if you look at the ad spend or the amount of time and the amount of efforts put into channels, I think there are too much time and too much effort put into like online advertising or like paid ads in general, and not enough in own ads, which once you own those and once you create these online communities, these can be super powerful. And yeah, I mean, you said it as well, like creating an online community. I think what attracts people is also the fact that not anybody can enter, right?
Yeah,
So kind of,
exclusivity.
yeah, exclusivity is I think very important here, where if you find out, or if you try to get into an online community and it's just super easy, yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a because then that anybody could enter, and it's probably not a super engaged community either. You're probably gonna have 1,000 members, but only 1 or 2 posts a week. And so I think what's really attractive when you build an online community is to being able, as you said, not connect with brands only, but also with the people who share that same interest.
Mhm.
So you shouldn't invite like just anyone who wants to enter. You should have a process, as you said, to figure out, are these people my customers? Are they engaged? Um, and then, yeah, try to be not only the brand talking to the people in the group, but trying to get the people to talk and to share stuff. So I think one thing that you talked about as well is also not being the sole voice of the brand, trying to get those people to be engaged, to share stuff, to ask questions. So yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, the way how you summarize this was brilliant. And just like a little side note here,
Yep.
eventually you have to set up the rules, right? So what will inevitably happen is that people will start shit posting stuff into your group, and here comes your admin muscle, meaning that you should prevent unwanted behavior as soon as you can. That rules have to be fair and just to people. So whatever you let it be gross. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking that you should be like super Nazi in your online communities and be like completely into censorship, but some rules should be predefined, such as do not sell used merchandise in our group, do
Hmm.
not promote competitive product, do not
Yeah.
ask questions that are disguised promotion. So
Yeah.
when you put this down, you have these objective grounds to really
Mm.
like maintain the quality. And to maintain the quality, it's a supremely powerful thing. I mean,
Yeah.
this is you determining how people will feel like at your house.
Mm. Yeah, and it's just completely crazy that you have to do that. But if you
You do.
don't, if you don't, it's gonna go crazy. So you should do that. Thanks for putting that up too.
Sure.
Amazing. Yeah, so let's talk about something related to having an online community, which is referral marketing. It's one thing that again we don't talk about enough, I feel, in that space of growth, because it's also pretty hard. You know, it's kind of a no-brainer that your most loyal customers can become a new acquisition funnel, but it's not always easy to put that in place. I feel, you know, I mean, at which point is somebody actually ready to refer to you? What gifts of what incentives should you be giving them? Not always easy to answer those different questions. Do you know?
You're right.
Yeah.
Inevitably and tremendously hard to answer this, because as people are like putting their good word and just like promoting stuff in the physical world, first of all, you cannot measure it. So in terms of attribution, you could never ever like realize that Joe has recommended something to Swin, because that never happened online for your referral code. But it does happen a lot in reality. So to just like be an awesome company in terms of customer care and just like making sure that people who are interacting with your product per se are happy is a first investment that you should be making into these referral loops as well. The other thing, which is true but kind of sad, is that, you know, those double-sided reward loops from Sean Ellis from 2008, 2010, people do feel spammy and a little bit overwhelmed when you are asking them to share stuff. So the secret ingredient behind this is that people really have to want it. I don't know if you have Wolt in Belgium. Do you, Thomas?
Walt?
Wolt food delivery service.
No, we don't. We don't.
Maybe we are some underdeveloped country again. They just entered the market this year.
Walt, you said.
And yeah, Wolt with
I don't
W.
know.
It's a
That's
Finnish or
funny. I've
Swedish
never heard of it.
company. Yeah, you have Uber Eats, and we don't even have
Yeah.
Uber. So yeah, that
No,
probably
not
explains it.
yet.
Still
It's
not.
gonna it's gonna
Still
come.
not.
It's gonna come.
No, but anyways, what was genius about that referral system was that they were just like giving away free delivery fees, right? And as you are like using something, of course you would like to have a free delivery. This is a value that is like profoundly true for you and represents something. So you would be inclined to just like making a few nudges now and then, maybe open a couple of fake emails and get the ball rolling. Other than that, it's very difficult to engineer a system that would be fair to a referral and that it wouldn't make him or her look bad if they're sharing the link, right? So when they're sharing the link, they should look like inventive, they should look early adopters, they should look really, really, really cool. Otherwise, they won't do it because there are just like too many referral programs lying around. What I personally like here are working with nano influencers. So if you give them like a very small discount code, you could probably very easily manage a punching power of an individual micro influencers. So like 10% off for just like the gentle YouTubers or Instagram influencers, that could be very, very, very beneficial. And results here are very surprising. So not the biggest profiles conquer. There is a lot of value to capture from nano communities as well. And people usually do that for a free product. So with platforms such as Influi or other platforms, you can like trigger referrals through nano influencers. But to people like you and I would probably have to have a very good relationship with a company if I want to be their, what is in my head, an ambassador. Because when I'm putting my word out for them, I'm practically like beating my own reputation. So when they are asking me to do like referral deals or just like influencing deals with companies, because finally I am a B2B influencer on LinkedIn. I know that you haven't probably like know that this such a thing exists But
No,
yeah.
no, I do, and yes, I can understand why you're sharing amazing content
I'm trying
on
my
LinkedIn.
best.
Yeah.
It's very intentional effort from my side. So what I'm basically saying is that first of all, you have to give a gazillion value to people and
Hmm.
just like make sure that they are like in good terms with your brand. Otherwise, it will just look spammy. And it does vary from one category to another. And I'm definitely not saying that there are smart folks and dumb folks living around. But for example, I would be proclined to share a podcast, which actually make me look smart, but I wouldn't probably like to share a link to a store that sells vibrators
Of
because I would be deeply embarrassed. Not
two
saying that I'm
opposite
using them, full
examples.
disclaimer, but anyways, just to illustrate
I
the
challenge you
difference
to do it
between
now.
categories. I don't have a referral link for that, Thomas. Shut the fuck up.
I will find one. I will find one. Don't worry.
Yeah, just like saying that you cannot really force it, but if it does happen organically, and there is one brilliant way how to measure that. You send out a survey to all your existing customers, so people who are interacting well with your funnel, and you ask them how did they first learn about the product. And you
Hmm.
can do that like for referrals as well as for influencers, because when we send out such a survey to a company to their like 46,000 customers, we actually got to top 10 influencer list, which was quite different from the influencer list that they are paying for, right? So that moment was very insightful for them to reevaluate whether they should continue those deals with the influencers that did not emerge on their customer list. And that was pretty
Mm,
powerful. So if there is such a thing as like natural drive to refer stuff, definitely engineer something around it. Otherwise, you can still work with nano influencers. And I know that this
amazing.
was a long and a hideous answer, but I didn't feel that I have anything very
No,
simple
that was
in that
amazing.
equation.
One thing, because I know what nano influencers are, but maybe the people who listen to this don't. Can you maybe explain what nano influencer mean? And one question I have is how do you find them? Like, what would be your go-to process to find the best and most relevant nano influencers for your brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we established before, and we were making a little bit joke, but it's totally beneficial to repeat this again. Nano influencer is somebody with their own audience, very engaged audience, in the field around 1,000 to 10,000 followers.
Hmm.
In Slovenia, which is a very small country, maybe in the USA it's 50K, I don't know, but yeah, that's actually like it doesn't have a million followers, but usually they have very, very, very engaged following rates. So these are people like you and I who just like in years of sharing like high quality content have built sufficient audiences that actually respect our opinion, and we also have that like very, very, very close to our hearts, that we only want to promote stuff that is well for them, right? Stuff that we are
Hmm.
actually using. So that's like the constellation that we are talking about. How you go and find them? So there is a shortcut which we can absolutely talk about, Facebook ads library. See with whom your competitors are working with. So double check that on Instagram who tagged certain products, and these would be like brilliant people to begin working with or just like
Nice.
looking at. Of course, other than that, there are platforms when you can just like launch your campaign, whether you can want to give up like the free product or whatever discount codes, whether you are willing to invest money into that. So it's your decision. But there are a lot of platforms when you can just like trigger those campaigns and find the ones that will absolutely work well for you. Other than that, like at least here in my home country, I am monitoring a couple of influencers myself, and it's not that difficult to develop relationships with them, right? So if there is somebody who's into mommy blogging or the other person who's into tech reviews, you know who's who. And you can just like gently pitch some collaboration if they are like willing to try the product out. So that would be an unscalable way how to do this, but definitely
Hmm.
a good way if you are just starting out.
Nice, amazing. Thank you, Maya. One last question before we wrap up. So we talk a lot about tactics and we talk a lot about things to implement. Now, the challenge that many brands have is how to build a team, right? To go and test all these things. So, and I think, like it's I mean the team that you need also depends on kind of the size or like the turnover that you have. So what profiles would you try to find, or like what kind of growth team would you implement, would you create if you were a company below 1 million yearly turnover and if you were a company above 1 million turnover?
Cool. So let me give you like a very big and loud shout out before I start answering that, because the majority of stuff that I learned how to like shape the initial growth ideation was when we were still working with Matt King. So that was like in 2017. And back then you had this amazing methodology that I also like I asked you to share that in my Udemy course as well, because it's tremendously nice. And I was totally happy that it got such an amazing responses from people. So you and Jean-Christophe have done amazing work around that. Just
Thank
like
you.
how to ideate short. No, definitely a shout out on my own model. It says inspired by you and the Matt is
Appreciate
gone.
it, Maya.
Yeah, of course, because it was like a full funnel approach, right?
Hmm.
As we established, and as Thomas and I know from practice, because we have been running a few bigs together, you usually
Hmm.
have a lot of ideas on the upper stages of funnel. So how to acquire new customers, how to build brand awareness. But when it comes down the funnel, like how to work on retention, oh boy, ideas get scarce.
Mm.
So for the majority of marketeers, it's very difficult to comprehend the entire funnel and just like not being stuck into how to acquire new customers, to just like improve user experience and to improve lifetime value of customers that are already sticking around, which is in the majority of cases more profitable per se. So ideation exercises are phenomenal here. And my methodology just like is built around what Thomas and Jean-Christophe have invented in 2017. But I put in my own little tweak to it. And these are traction channels, because for the majority of businesses, usually like free channels work the best. But in order to find those channels, you have to experiment throughout your funnel. So
Hmm.
it's very important to just like not only copying what your competition is doing, to just like keep an open mind of what are other options elsewhere. And when you have such an ideation exercise, you usually come down with, I don't know, 70 to 120. My personal record is like 200 experiments per hour. Thomas, what was best in your cases?
That's a proper growth machine.
Yeah, people were very, very, very into category. That was a gaming that was a gaming product.
Incredible.
I could barely write as fast as they spoken. But anyways, when you have like ideation exercise with your team throughout the funnel, you invent a lot of cool experiments. So in the next stage is really important to prioritize them. And again, this is where something that I learned from Thomas and his team at Matt King's. Prioritization can take hours. I mean, it's totally sexy to come up with ideas, but to prioritize them and just like to align what kind of impact will something have, how easy it is to comprehend, and just like how confident are you that it is going to work, that can be difficult. So that's why we always have this advice that growth person is much less than a growth team.
Hmm.
So in organizations that we are dealing with, at least at the beginning, usually there is one growth enthusiast. Preferably it is somebody close to the leadership of the company so that you have this buy-in. But there are cases when somebody is like more into the operations, but they are passionate about growth and they would like to prove that it is something that does create big wins for the company. So the first thing for the companies that have like lower than 1 million per month is to build your first pockets of successes, right? As
Mm,
we all know, 2 out of 10 experiments that you will launch will be successful. And we are talking figuratively here, but the truth is that the median is around 25%. So you need to experiment a lot. And especially if you don't have the sizable traffic, you have to make big changes in order to find your pockets of success. But after you do that, go the shit around your company and rave the everything you have on Slack channels, in internal newsletter, and just like make sure that people know your wins. That will help you get the resources and just like the general buy-in to construct a growth team, which is more often than not constructed around in e-commerce, at least around like acquisition expert, then conversion rate optimization expert. So conversion rate is very big, what's going on in the website, because you cannot send people to the leaky bucket. Other than that, you usually have a developer, so somebody who's very competent in data science and development per se, preferably in one person, and a designer. When it comes to just like the optimal size of growth team, in practice, you see everything from 3 people to 20 people, but the optimal size is around 5 to 6. Because when everybody is responsible, nobody is responsible. So
that's
that's
very
like
true.
analysis paralysis here inevitably kicks in. And as you are working with larger companies, so right now next month, I'm totally hyped to have a training with some business units from one of the greatest retailers in Germany, which is super cool, and I'm completely excited about that. Usually you are establishing this center of excellencies, or just like the knowledge hub, so that like this knowledge can cater to more business units, right? Because
Mm,
as company first start out, the growth team acts like an internal agency. So they are doing work mainly for early adopters, those who believe in methodology, and eventually once you endorse the first wins, more people come to you, and it's very very difficult to just like catch up with everything what they are doing. So that's why people went to the decentralized approach, meaning that there is like one growth team per one business unit. But
mm,
boys and girls, these are silos again, right? So you are not making any insights that would be like very beneficial through different layers of the company. And basically you did progress in terms of how the company does growth, but it doesn't benefit a company as a whole. So
mm.
that's why the mega collaboration and just like the most empowered companies in terms of growth have these central of excellencies and internal growth trainings in order to just like make sure that there is this brand growth team, the ones who have everything figured out together, and that those people are moving through the departments in order to raise other growth teams as well. So that's kind of a
Nice.
winning combo.
Mm, yeah, I love it. Yeah, really like start small, prove that it works, then scale different in different business units. Amazing. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this amazing interview?
Yeah, just do it.
The no.
Circumstances will never get ideal. You will always feel overwhelmed about the amount of work that you can do. Somebody will always be buying Ferraris, Lamborghinis, making millions, sipping margaritas when you are working out of your childhood bedroom. So the game is long, and at the end, it's only with yourself. So make sure that you are keeping like good work-life balance, that you have awesome mentors surrounding you, that you are investing in your knowledge, and as you are now, as you are listening to this podcast, and just like make sure that there are no failings, there are just learnings. So the faster you grow, the faster you'll experiment, the faster you'll grow, and as you embrace this philosophy, everything becomes more fun suddenly.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maya.
Loved it.
If someone wants to reach out to you, how could they do that?
Whatever you do, don't write emails. I hate emails. I need 3 weeks to answer them. And whenever you send me an email, a kitten dies somewhere. So, but you are welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Whatever you do, don't send emails.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Maya. That was super interesting, super
Love it.
inspiring. And I wish you an amazing day and Sunday afternoon.
You as well. Thank you so much for having me in your podcast. Good luck with your podcast, and I will send you some nomination for future guests. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Amazing. Thank you so much again.
Was
Bye.
lovely. Ciao.
Ciao.